Warning, this video discusses topics such as sexual assault, abuse, and rape. Konosuke no Miko is a mecha yuri anime that premiered in 2004, adapted from a manga of the same name. It holds a middling 6.8 rating on Mal, and it might be one of the worst mecha anime that I have ever seen. This review will be divided into 3 sections: a plot synopsis, my issues with the show, and my concluding thoughts. A full breakdown is necessary to highlight its flaws without constantly interrupting the flow. If you enjoy my suffering, consider liking and subscribing. This review will focus solely on the anime. Episode 1 introduces us to the core cast: Himeko, Chikane, and Soma. Himeko is our main character. She is painfully shy and clumsy, and the world hates her. Chikane is our main love interest and the other half of the Yuri. She is stoic, confident, and talented, which has led to her isolation from her peers. Soma is a guy who Chikane has feelings for more than half of the show. This is a real catfish that I'll get into later. The episode establishes that Chikane and Himeko share a birthday. On that day, the big bad Orochi awaken. Soma is forced to attack Himeko, and Chikane kisses an unconscious Himeko. Also introduced is Himeko's best friend, Mechkou. Don't bother remembering her, the show won't either. The episode sets up Himeko and Soma's relationship and reveals our main mech. Here's the current relationship graph. Episode 2, the town is recovering from the Orochi attack. Himeko and Chikane are revealed to be the solar and lunar priestesses, respectively, and we get our exposition on the bad guys. We're shown all of them and given some one-liners to establish their personalities. Chikane's friend is in hospital. Our main duo have some moments and are attacked by one of the Orochi, who has a crush on Himeko. Soma saves them. Relationship graph update. Episode 3. Himeko moves into Chikane's large estate. She's rich because, of course she is, and her maid is jealous. Himeko thinks about their friend. The cat girl attacks. I won't comment much on the mech designs yet, but this one's a solid We also get our first foreshadowing of what's to come. Graph update. Episode 4, Soma and Himeko go on a date. Chikane gives her this really ugly outfit and feels sad for a bit. The show establishes the abuse Himeko experienced as a child. Soma manages to work through it first try. Orochi attacks, Soma protects her, and oh no, the bad guy is Soma's brother. I sure do hope this is a meaningful experience that adds to the plot. Graph. Episode 5. Soma fights his brother. Himeko gets knocked out, we get Soma's backstory here, and wow. That's a lot of time on a guy who isn't even the love interest, and will get cucked inevitably. Soma fights his brother again, and wins, gaining Himeko's further affection. Graph. Episode 6. We finally get more time with Chikane and her past, as well as how she met Himeko, which is pretty sweet. The girls try the ritual again, and Himeko collapses. She should really take some iron tablets or something. Himeko puts off the date with Soma because she failed the ritual, and Chikane overhears and feels bad. Chikane makes her go anyway, and Himeko lets her touch her hair because her trauma is gone now, I guess. It's gotten so bad the maid is feeling for Chikane. Graph. Episode 7. It starts raining during the date, so Soma and Himeko hide in an abandoned house. This is mainly for fan service and awkward romantic tension. Still a Yuri, by the way. Chikane is approached by a member of the Orochi who confronts her about her feelings for Himeko and her. That is not an exaggeration. Meanwhile, Soma and Himeko are attacked by several Orochi this time. All 3 escape the situations, and Soma and Himeko kiss, which leads to Himeko crying. This is another point we'll get to later. Graph. Episode 8. Himeko and Soma go on another date. To find a gift for Chikane. We also get some development on the maid and Chikane's relationship. Himiko gets home to a dark and empty home. Suddenly, she hears the piano playing and runs upstairs to find Chikane in her own priestess outfit. She gives her the gift, which is tossed aside, and Himiko forcibly kisses, undresses, and her. Personally, I think the male description is too light, and I see the implications as similar to Chikane's but make of that what you will. Chikane gloats to Soma, who arrives too late to save Himiko, and throws him out of a window, and we find out she has joined the Orochi. Graph. Episode 9. Himiko is cared for at the shrine. While Chikane is off killing the Orochi, Himiko runs away to Chikane's house for the night. When she goes to school, she finds out Chikane hasn't been in, and those bullies who appeared once are back to harass her. Oh, and if you remember her friend, she's finally back now. They reconcile, and Makoto gives her a pep talk to push her into the final act. All of the Orochi are dead now, I guess, and the mech from before is now red. Oh, and Soma has been on a training arc in the background. Graph. Episode 10, Himiko completes the ritual on her own, setting a stage for the final battle on the moon. There's a shrine there, by the way, I forgot to mention. Himiko does chores around the house and tells herself that Chikane is a good person. Chikane gets super devil powers, and we see the backstories of the Orochi. I will also get to this later. Himiko resolves that she just wants to talk to Chikane and find out why she did that. Soma gives her a kiss on the head and promises not to let her down. Himiko goes home to find Chikane, who tends to her wounds from the ritual. She's disturbed by flashes back to what Chikane did, but pushes him aside. I'll play this clip.
So, それは夢のような時間でした。あの夜、突然壊れてしまった日常。失ってしまった時間が突然何の前触れもなく戻ってきたことに、私はただ驚き、戸惑っていました。いえ、本当は戸惑っていたかっただけなのかもしれません。ちかねちゃんとおしゃべりして、ご飯を食べて、笑って、二人で過ごす当たり前の時間が本当に嬉しくて、素敵な魔法のように思えて、本当は聞きたいことが、聞かなきゃいけないことがたくさんあったはずなのに、疑問を口にした途端、魔法が解けてしまいそうで、楽しい夢の時間が終わってしまうのがただ怖くて、この時間が夢なのか、あの夜のことが夢なのか、どちらが私の本当なのか、私は。
Something about this moment and what follows disgusts me. Something about this just reeks of abusive cycles, with her feeling it was like a magical spell and she'd ruin it by confronting her. Toxic Yuri is a thing, but for the things Chikane has done and will do to Himiko, their endgame doesn't feel deserved. This feels... I will get to it later, just the writing of this, the choices, the things these characters do at times, does not feel like good writing. It feels very painful to witness for something that is supposed to be a sweet romance. Supposedly, we'll get to that later. Himiko sleeps in Chikane's bed and is comforted by her, reassured in her thoughts. Girl, she's barely touching you. Anyway, this ends on Chikane revealing she's still evil, will kill her, and she cuts open Himiko's shirt and puts a letter in her chest. This episode ends on Himiko looking violated. Graph. Episode 11. Apparently a year has passed throughout the story. There's a big sword mech, which is maybe the best design in the show. Soma is being consumed by his Orochi corruption. They fight against Chikane, who is using the first mech. All the Orochi mechs fuse. Soma sacrifices himself. Himeko and Chikane face off in the Moon Temple. Chikane gives a very long love confession while causing her pain.
あなたの体が好き。抱きしめると折れてしまいそうな華奢な腰が、薄くてでも形の良い胸が、重ねた肌から伝わってくるぬくもりが好き。でも一番好きなのはあなたの心。脆くて傷つきやすい、でもどこまでも純粋で美しい。決して誰も責めたりしない、全てを許す優しさに満ちた魂が。好きよ、大好き。あなたの全てが愛おしくてたまらないの、姫子。
Yikes. There's just so many abusive undertones that I really don't think the creators considered while writing this. Like, some of this genuinely feels like they were trying to write a good romance, or they thought they were, and they just really fuck up on that. And dare I say, Chikane could be considered one of the earliest yanderes, considering she came out in 2004. She feels very up that alley, which, you know, if the show was going for that angle, great, but I really don't think it is, with the best will in the world. Chikane destroys the world, then she dies. Graph. Episode 12, Chikane shows her past to Himeko, revealing that she killed her in her past lives when they went through the ritual, but because she was pissed at God, they had to do it all over again. She wasn't taken over by evil. She chose to do all of that. This is really stupid. I think killing the people around her, such as Makoto, would have been enough and given them more importance. We know how deeply Himeko cares about them. Anything that happens to her, she just blames on herself. With how much the show throws around SA to just shock the viewer, it's such an irritating conclusion. She didn't even try to kill her out of hatred in the end. It was pure accident in self-defense. Soma gets a send-off with his brother so he can actually give the girls some more time, and the show ends on the new timeline. The Orochi get to lead happy lives. Everything else is the same, and Himeko and Chikane meet again as adults with their memories flooding back. So that's Kanazuki no Miko summarized. What went wrong? There are so many issues, but I want to go over the first problem. The show's description really glosses over the story in a way that makes it both unappealing but misrepresents the show entirely. Mel puts a big emphasis on how much the girls love each other in a synopsis and episode descriptions, but I'd argue that very little of the show is Yuri. It takes 10 episodes for them to wrap up Soma and Himeko's relationship out of 12, and it just wastes way too much time. Time that could have been spent actually making me care about the characters goes into a couple that won't even be endgame. And time is valuable when your story is short. This should have been wrapped up before the halfway point to actually set up and get us rooting for Chikane and Himeko to end up together. I would like to lead this on to the next problem. The characters. They are all so boring. Chikane spends most of the show quietly moping. Himeko is a Mary Sue, clumsy yet adored, weak yet the chosen one. She's also just very annoying from her constant whining and complaining. Her friend Makoto could literally be written out of the story and replaced by anyone else. She serves to wake Himeko up on the first day and be written out the next. Soma is unironically the most fleshed out character, I feel. I saw some people say that it was Chikane to them, but I really think Soma is the one who gets the most time. And I can see why the creators went on to create a straight version of the story without the mecha, which we'll get to in a sec. It feels very much like their initial intent. All of the Orochi are just lame. I don't talk about them much or even bother naming them because the show barely does. The backstories range from being to human experiment to war evacuees to oh no, my manga wasn't published, wah. Not to mention, there is no organization to their plans. The story just seems to pick one or a few at random and just use them as incredibly dull tools to drive a story. They are an incredibly forgettable lineup of side characters, and it gives the show a feeling that it should have been way longer to make them more interesting. So, to the heavier topics. This show throws around essay like it's nothing. There are 5 instances of it being used in the story off the top of my head, and it adds nothing. There are no consequences for it. When resolving it, they brush it over like it never happened, like a bruise. Not to mention the numerous times characters are just nude for no reason. I could argue that these scenes of nudity are to show the characters being vulnerable and this is them at the weakest moments, which, yeah, if this was written better, I'd be inclined to agree. But the creators went on to make a rogue with underage characters, so I don't know, man, that's pretty weird, champ. There is also a modern rewrite, so maybe they improve on this there. Not to say, because I won't read it. Now, lastly, the thing we all forgot about. The Mecha. Which this show is apparently. I really think it should have just been a generic fighting fantasy anime. It has these ideas with a human experiment cat girl and giant robots, but there's just no lore explanation or reason for them. The show throws around some interesting-ish ideas and then does nothing with them, so we can get another episode of Soma and Himeko doing anything else, I guess. And they're just set pieces, not to mention the fights are really bland and just boring. And that's if the show doesn't just reveal the pilots metaphorically fighting physically in a cockpit anyway. The designs are unremarkable, aside for the main mech and sword mech, and that's kind of it. Which, for a video that's going to be titled The Worst Mecha Anime, you'd think I'd have more complaints, but Mecha is just so non-existent that it is hard to complain about, because there is so little to complain about, and it's just the rest of the show that drives me insane. I won't bother addressing the animation and voice acting. The show is from 2004, and I watched the dub, so there's no real reason to comment on it. It's about what you expect for a show from that era. Kanazuki no Mechkou isn't the worst anime, but it's painfully boring and relies on edgy, tasteless tropes. If you want a good mecha yuri, watch Gundam Witch from Mercury. For fantasy yuri, check out Love Bullet. What mech anime should I review next? Let me know, I'm always up for more suffering. I'm Mechkou, and if you liked the video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Special thanks to our Ko-Fi supporters, Sentai, Z, and Automactic.